is McGraw-Hill education, SAT preparation, including 1 diagnostic test and 4 practice tests. I'm planning to start with diagnostic test today, but before then, I'd like to show you this chapter, chapter 3 of this material, which has 20 different sections of vocabulary studies. Just to start this vocabulary part, it introduces how to make use of flashcards. So everyone, please have a look at this part. It strongly recommends, by the way, as an experienced language learner, I strongly recommend you to make use of these flashcards. So it here recommends all, yeah. Any question?
No, sir.
Okay, so let's make it a bit clearer. In the next following weeks, maybe months, we don't know what time or what date will the College Board conduct this SAT. So that means you have enough time to revise your studies, to prepare, to do more practice. Considering this time period and your preparation, I strongly recommend you allocate enough time to practice reading and also vocabulary. Just to study vocabulary, I strongly recommend you to use those flashcards. So what is this? So it here says just use 2-sided papers or cards. At one side, it asks you to write a relevant sentence which uses the target word in. And on the other side, it asks you to use detailed dictionary information, starting with definition and synonyms, and also grammar function, as you see here. So this material categorizes target vocabulary in 20 parts. So the first part is language of ideas and learning. Starts with abstract. So for example, who do we have here? Let's ask. For example, I think we have Jafar here. Jafar, can you unmute your microphone?
Yeah, teacher, I opened it.
Yeah, good. So we all can hear you now. Jafar, here it starts with abstract. What does abstract mean? Do you have an idea?
No, teacher.
Yeah, here we see the definition for this word, which is a very academic word, by the way. Here's the definition, and it gives root details and relevant words. You do not have to write your flashcards that detailed, but it's much better to use first the definition and the sample sentence at one side, and then try to revise them as much as you can. So here in one title you see, for example, language of ideas and learning, you see a few pages giving relevant vocabulary in this category. And second, you see argument, reasoning, and persuasion, advocate. These are all repeated words in the previous tests and keywords that you need to understand the passages. So I strongly recommend you to have a look at this chapter. You see chapter 3, the language of ideas. So now, do you have any comment, Jafar? If no, you can unmute your microphone. Then I will ask you in the following part your comments.
Thank you, teacher. Okay.
Yeah. So far, any question, any comment from our participants? I'm waiting for a few seconds. I think no. So let's continue with diagnostic test. Today, in this introductory session, we are going to look at the first passage of diagnostic test, reading first passage. And before our next session, I want all our students to complete reading part of this test. But I believe before Yunus Hoca's session, he also strongly expects all students to complete writing section as well. So let's start with the reading part.
Sir, I had a question.
Yes.
Sir, are we gonna do the reading part today with you, like completely, or we have to finish it later if we couldn't finish it here?
Yes, we are going to look at only first passage of the test. We will try to apply Kaplan strategies, for example, and discuss questions, categories of questions, types of questions. Most probably we will try to finish first passage and its questions. Then I will ask you to complete it later by yourself.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
So here is the passage. So before, just a second, let me explain. So let's ask a revision question to one of our participants. Tasnem, can you unmute your mic?
Yes.
Tasnem, we are going to start reading a passage in reading part. So what are the first thing? What are the pre-reading strategies that we do before we start reading and answering the questions?
I think that we used to read, first of all, the introduction, then start to read the first paragraph with the first sentence from each paragraph too, and then read the paragraph. Just that.
Okay, so we start with introductory information. And with introductory information, what sort of details do we think to anticipate with this introductory information? What is the reason?
To have like a background about the writer or the book that, or the passage that we are going to read.
I'm just trying to use. Oops, what happened? Sorry, I'm trying to use this. What happened to my pen? Okay, let's explain here. So this is the introductory part. With this introductory piece of information, what's the reason of trying to analyze this introductory information? First thing is to identify the passage or passage type. Okay, so let's do this with one of our participants. Sanas, can you unmute your microphone and have a look at this introductory information? Try to identify the passage.
Shall I read the passage?
No, just introductory part. What is this?
Oh, okay.
You see
This
here.
passage is adapted, yes, from Kevin Drum, America's Real Criminal Elements.
So, Sanas, what sort of passage is this, do you think? Is this a literature passage?
Yes.
Are you sure?
No, really?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's discuss a different person. Mujib?
Yeah, it's history, sir.
History.
But it's not actually history because it's 2013.
So what sort of passage is this?
I think it should be related to history.
Look at this one. Here it says America's real criminal element, lead. So when we say criminal, it most probably refers to social studies, first of all. And lead, yeah, it's a kind of argumentative text which studies how effective this material, lead, was in the criminal records of a community, of a society. So this is most probably from a social studies. So this very short piece of information helps us to identify passage type. So we can anticipate that this is from social studies. Any comment, any questions so far?
No, sir.
Okay, all right. So when we look at this passage type, yeah, it's not very old-fashioned. It's from social studies. It discusses how criminal incidents was affected by the material lead, and we will learn about that. And when we look at the passage length, which is 1.5 page long, so approximately number of words we expect to read about is, remember from our lessons, around 700 words. Okay, all right. Now we are going to look at this passage and discuss the questions, following questions. And with together the passage, we are also given a short infographic to support the claims of this passage and 10 questions accordingly. All right. So let's discuss the passage together. So the first paragraph. Let me ask you a question to Zehra. Can you unmute your microphone? I would like to ask a question.
Yes, sir. Hello.
Hello, Zehra. Zehra, what is the function of introductory paragraph in such passage? Do you remember from our explanations?
We can identify what the passage is going to talk about.
Mm-hmm. So first of all, it gives us the topic.
Yes, the topics, yeah.
What else?
And then when we will start reading, we can understand more by the topic sentence as what is gonna, like, what's written in that paragraph.
Yeah, but this is a very rough explanation. Zehra, remember, this is introductory paragraph. So it also gives us the limits of the topic. So this is important. Remember, we said that this is about criminal cases, but how crimes were affected by this material, lead, is discussed. Most probably the controlling limits of this article is about that. So let's have a look at the paragraph together and try to create a passage map for some important paragraphs together. So I'm going to read the first paragraph. Experts often suggest that crime resembles an epidemic. What is an epidemic?
It's something
The
like
situation we are right now.
Yes, just a second. Let's ask who answered that. I think it was Idris.
It was Mujib, sir.
Mujib, okay. Mujib, could you please repeat that?
That is the situation that we are right now.
The situation
Like
right now is pandemic. Pandemic, so not epidemic.
What's the difference?
Well, like, I don't know, but pandemic is different than epidemic, isn't it, sir?
Sir, I think something that is preached from one person to another person. I mean, a group of maybe person.
Yeah.
That's something like that.
Yeah. Most probably we can say that pandemic can also substitute the word epidemic. Epidemic refers to a large number of cases of a disease. Pandemic is more than that. Let's check. Yeah. As we said, pandemic is a bit more general term, refers to a more severe situation. All right, I'm going back to the text. Everyone, please have a look at the first paragraph. Experts often suggest that crime resembles an epidemic. But what kind? Economics professor Carl Smith has a good rule of thumb for categorizing epidemics. Rule of thumb, do you have an idea what this word means? Or this phrase?
A rule that should be used almost always.
Yeah, that's right. A rough figure, a method of calculation, which is used by experience for categorizing epidemics. If it spreads along lines of communication, he says the cause is information. Okay. Think Bieber fever. If it travels along major transportation routes, the cause is microbial. Think influenza. If it spreads out like a fan, the cause is an insect. Think malaria. But if it's everywhere, all at once, as both the rise of crime in 60s and 70s and the fall of crime in 19th seem to be, the cause is a molecule. So, everyone, please look at the sentence structures of this highlighted part. I would like to hear a few of our students' comments. Who is this? Alexa? Alexandra, is that you?
Yes, mister, it's me.
Yeah. Alexandra, can you have a look at the highlighted sentences? I think structurally they look similar.
Yeah.
And what is the author trying to say with these very similar phrases?
He is keep giving information.
Sure, definitely. It's trying to exemplify the situation with the previous ones.
Yeah.
And the examples are fever, influenza, malaria. So when it comes down to the its own original topic, what is it? Crime and its cause, a molecule. So if I ask you to write a passage map of this paragraph, what it would be, and try to write it here, if I can use my stylus. Crime and a molecule. What is it? Lead. Any questions so far?
No.
Okay. Second short paragraph, a molecule. That sounds crazy. What molecule could be responsible for a steep and sudden decline in violent crime? Okay. So let's continue with Mujib, can you unmute your microphone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which Mujib?
Let's continue with the following paragraph, and right after you finish reading the next paragraph, I will ask you to tell me what could be the potential possible passage map of this paragraph. Can you start reading the following paragraph? This one, starting here.
Omar Mujib or Abdul Mujib, sir?
Mujib.
Okay. Well, here is one possibility. PbCH2 PbCH2C34 in 1994. Rick Nevin was a consultant working for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development on the costs and benefits of removing lead paint from old houses. A growing body of research had linked lead exposure in small children with a whole raft of complications later in life, including lower IQ, hyperactivity, behavioral problems, and learning disabilities. A recent study had also suggested a link between childhood lead exposure and juvenile. Could you go upwards?
Yes. Juvenile delinquency.
Delinquency later on. Maybe reducing lead exposure had an effect on violent crime too.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Majid. So in this paragraph, we are given a detailed explanation about what? Any volunteer to answer my question? Free to unmute the microphone and say it.
Lead exposure. The effects of lead exposure on humans.
Mm-hmm. Who is this?
Eray.
Again?
Eray.
Eray, yes, Eray. Eray, could you please repeat that?
The effects of lead exposure on humans.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. Any example?
From the phase of childhood to their behavior and their IQ, etc. From different ranges of their age.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Okay. How about this one? This information.
Their houses apparently contain lead in their paint, so removing that could lead to different outcomes in their behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe old people with old houses have a higher chance of showing lower IQ and hyperactivity, behavior problems, and learning disabilities.
Mm-hmm. Okay, in conclusion, so this paragraph mainly focuses on the effects of this.
Lead exposure,
yeah. Okay, all right. Okay, let's continue with someone else. Behram, ready to read the next paragraph?
Yes, sir. Hungary. Sir, I can see is high. Yes,
really?
High source of the lead is the
this one. This paragraph,
okay,
Behram.
So that took Nevin in a different direction. The biggest source of lead is the post-war era. It turns out wasn't paint, but leaded gasoline. If you chart the rise and fall of atmospheric lead caused by the rise and fall of leaded gasoline consumption, you get an upside down U lead emission from tailpipes towards steadily from the early 40s through the early 70s, nearly quadrupling over that period. Then, as unleaded gasoline began to replace leaded gasoline, emissions plummeted.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Behram. Before you stop, let me underline key vocabulary in this paragraph. Plummeted, which means
an extreme decrease. Plummeted.
Increased.
Decrease.
To sky level.
Yeah, suddenly and quickly decrease in amount, in volume. Plummeted. This is a keyword in this paragraph, which I strongly recommend you to take note later. And another word that I took. This is also a keyword in this paragraph, nearly quadrupling over that period. That means increase 4 times. Okay, all right. So this is another detailed information about the topic, which we are expected to take note of passage map. So let's ask Idris. So what could be the passage map of this paragraph? Margin node.
Sir,
I think, sir, it's talking about the increase and decrease of the lead. Yes, I think.
So first,
Leading.
this is the key part, and secondly, this one, not paint but leaded gasoline. And in the rest of the paragraph, it gives us statistical detail. The main idea is given here. Okay. So I think it's not that difficult to understand. Let's continue with the following paragraph. Berin, ready to read the following paragraph? Berin, is Berin available there?
Teacher, I can't read now because I am a little bit sick. Can anyone read?
Okay, sure. Okay, let's continue with
sorry.
Heba if she is ready here.
I'm sorry, teacher.
No problem.
Sir, I'm ready.
Yes, Heba.
Okay.
Intriguingly, what does intriguingly means? Interesting, very interesting.
Interesting.
Sir.
Sir, shall I read?
Yes, please. Let's read the paragraph first.
Intriguingly, violent crime rates followed the same upside-down U pattern. See the graph.
Just a second. Just a second, Heba. The graph U pattern says in this way.
Yeah.
In this way, you see.
A is negative.
Okay. Yes, Heba.
The only thing different was the time period. Crime rates rose dramatically in the 16th through the 18th, and then began dropping steadily starting in the early 19th. The two curves looked eerily identical, but were offset by about 20 years. Offset by about 20 years.
Okay, just a second. I am looking at your friend's messages. 30 seconds.
Okay.
Sir, Sana says she can't reply to the session right now because she's leaving somewhere with the family.
Mm-hmm.
She will be following us from the car.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Okay, so in this paragraph, mainly, in short, main idea is given.
So is it describing the graph?
Definitely. And this part gives us the main idea here. Dropping steadily starting the early 90s. Another important piece of information is here, but we're offset by about 20 years. Offset, almost the same. Okay, let's continue with Mohammed. Is Mohammed with us?
Teacher, can you hear me?
Yes, Mohammed, we are ready to hear you. So let's continue with the following paragraph.
So Nevin dug up all detailed data on lead emissions and crime rates to see if the similarity of the curves was as good as it seemed. It turned out to be even better. In a 2000 paper, he concluded that if you added a lag time of 23 years, lead emissions from automobiles explain 90% of the variation in violent crime in America.
Okay, Mohammed, just a second. Mohammed, I would like to ask a common question to all of you. Why it says a lag time of 23 years? A lag time, a kind of delay. So they add 23 more years to their calculation. Why? Can anyone answer my question?
Sorry, sir, what was the question?
Probably because of the effects of lead being delayed. Like if lead, it doesn't affect you instantly. Probably that's why.
Yes, definitely. Who replied this?
Eray.
Eray. Eray is 100% right. Why they say 23 years? Because they consider if a toddler is exposed to lead at the age of 3 or 4, and 23 years later, at the age of 27, 28, they start suffering from their influences. So that's why. Yes, Mohammed, let's finish it, please.
Toddlers who ingested high levels of lead in the 40s and 50s really were more likely to become violent criminals in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Okay, Mohammed, thanks. Could you please tell us a sample margin note for this paragraph, Mohammed?
Explanation of the being late, teacher, maybe? Of the lag time, maybe, teacher?
Yes, it could be, but more importantly, we should also consider these dates. Because here it's talking about lead exposure in 40s and 50s, and the results were in those years. Okay, all right, let's try to finish the text very quickly, and let's continue with who else? Rukia is with us, I think. Yes, Rukia, ready?
And with that, we have our molecule tetraethyllead, the gasoline additive invented by General Motors in 1920s to prevent knocking and ping in high-performance engines. As auto sales boom after World War II and rise in power for new cars increasingly asked service station attendants to fill air up with ethyl, they were unwittingly creating a crime wave 2 decades later.
Okay, so again, what sort of margin note can we write here, Rukia? Any idea?
No idea.
Yeah, the point here is I accidentally highlighted this. This is the key information. Gasoline additive invented by General Motors in 1920s caused this fact, creating a crime wave 2 decades later. And the reason was explained in the previous paragraph. So margin notes how this additive caused a crime wave 2 decades later. Okay, we will discuss more with the following questions. And let's continue with Serkan. Serkan, are you available to read the paragraph?
Yes, I am.
Yes, we are ready to listen to you, Serkan.
This part which you
highlighted, yeah, it was an exciting conjecture, which means a combination of events.
Okay. Should I read it now?
Yes, please.
Okay. It was an exciting conjecture and it prompted an immediate wave of nothing. Nevin's paper was almost completely ignored, and in one sense, it's easy to see why. Nevin is an economist, not a criminologist, and his paper was published in environmental research, not a journal with a big readership in the criminology community. What's more, a single correlation between two curves is all that impressive, econometrically speaking. Sales of vinyl LPs rose in the post-war period too, and then declined in the 80s and 90s. No matter how good the fit, if you only have a single correlation, it might just be a coincidence. You need to do something more to establish causality.
So, What is the point discussed in this paragraph, Serkan? Main idea, just a few words.
Maybe just expressing
Nevin's study did not gain popularity, and the reasons of it's being ignored. This is the main idea of this paragraph.
Yes.
And the final paragraph is just a kind of summary.
Yes. Mostly.
If you only have a single correlation, it might just be a coincidence. So this is a kind of something, a basic principle for all academic studies. Just one link cannot explain the whole event. Okay, let's have a look at the following two paragraphs before we discuss questions. Let's continue with someone else. Yusuf?
Yes.
Let's continue with you, Yusuf, and finish the text with together.
Okay, this part, the underlined part, that one.
So in 2007?
Yeah, so in 2007, Nevin collected lead data and crime data for Australia, Canada, Great Britain, Finland, France, Italy, New Zealand, and West Germany. Every time the two curves fit each other astonishingly well. Can I continue?
So here, again, the drawback of the previous study, in this paragraph, it's explaining how the previous findings of the study best fits with the following ones. Let's continue with the final paragraph, Yusuf.
The gasoline lead hypothesis helps explain some things we might not have realized even needed explaining. For example, murder rates have always been higher in big cities than in towns and small cities. And Nevin says that because big cities have a lot of cars in a small area, they are also high densities of atmosphere lead during the post-war era. But as lead levels in gasoline decreased, the differences between big and small cities largely went away. And guess what? The difference in murder rates went away too. Today, homicide rates are smaller in cities of all sizes. It may be that violent crimes isn't an inevitable consequence of being a big city after all.
Okay, all right, thanks. So Yusuf, what is the margin note for this final paragraph?
I would say solving the problem. Or maybe crime going away. I haven't really been in the. I just joined the session. I really don't know what the first paragraphs are about.
All right. Okay, let's ask someone else. Meryem?
Yes, sir.
Meryem, what is the margin note for this paragraph?
I think the difference between big and small.
Meryem, I think I cannot hear you well.
You cannot hear me?
A bit better.
Okay,
my question is, what is the margin note of this paragraph? Here it says, just to end the passage, it says, today, homicide rates are similar in cities of all sizes. It may be that violent crime isn't an inevitable consequence of being a big city after all. So homicide, the crime of murder. So any idea? Okay,
no.
All right. So let's ask Idris. Idris is not available, I think.
Teacher, he sent a message that his mic is not working, I guess.
Okay, all right. Eray? The main idea of this paragraph is explained in this highlighted part. So throughout the passage, we read that as the exposure to lead decreases, the crime rates also decrease. Yeah. So that's the main idea. So far, just to read and understand the passage. Any question mark? Of course, during the test, you won't have so much time, but still we need to identify the focus of each paragraph. What is the main idea in this paragraph? You have to ask yourself. And then, if possible, you need to write down key words, key phrases, just to remember the focus of each paragraph with specific information. And next, we are given preschool blood lead levels versus violent crime rates in the US. And here are the dates and also amount, average preschool blood lead. Violent crime per 100,000. Okay, this is the infographic given with the passage. Now let's look at the questions. But before we discuss the questions, I'd like to remember if I can write the way. So I think Mohammed will be very volunteer to answer this question. Do you remember types of questions in reading section, Mohammed?
Main idea, teacher.
Just a second.
Specific details question, teacher. Inference question.
Just a second. Number 3, inference. But this one could be to infer from the overall ideas of the passage or from a specific data. Inference. What else?
Vocab in context question, teacher. Technique, teacher question. Technique.
Okay.
And synthesis questions, teacher. I mean synthesis, teacher. Connecting. Yes.
Well, this could be related to that as well.
Okay.
What else?
Teacher, infographics. Command of evidence,
Great.
teacher.
So these are the types of questions that we are likely to try to answer in reading section. I think you all remembered all these types of questions. So just to remember, Mujib, what sort of question is that? A technique question?
A technique question? I don't know, sir. I can't seem to remember.
Technique question. Can anyone comment of this type of question?
Sir, maybe like what type of technique is used in the language structure?
For example?
Sir, maybe like in the paragraph, maybe it explains like it highlights some words and says like what's like the meaning of this word in this paragraph or in this sentence.
Not exactly, actually.
Teacher, maybe tone attitude questions.
Tone attitude is mostly related to a combination of main idea and technique. Passage's tone, passage's attitude, writer's tone, writer's attitude. Okay, just to keep in mind this, let's have a look at the questions and discuss first types of questions, then try to answer them together. So let's start with Mona. Mona is with us here. Mona, can you unmute your microphone and read the question and also explain question type, number 1. I think Mona is not available. Numan?
Can you hear me?
Who is speaking?
Sir, are you recording the screen?
Just a few seconds.
So like, can you record like the question part, then we can send it to the group. It will be better, Mr. Because some students who missed the class, it will help them.
Yeah, sure, definitely. As I said, this is just a kind of demo lesson. We are just learning the platform and also the practicing it. So in the following sessions, we will do the whole lesson.
Okay, sir. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. So who is going to explain the question type first? And is Numan available?
Yes, sir, I'm available.
Yes, Numan. First of all, can you have a look at the first question and try to discuss question type? So remember, as your friend stated, we have more or less 8 different types of questions in reading section. Main idea questions,
Teacher,
specific
can
detail,
you zoom out the
inference.
screen?
Sorry?
Can you zoom out the screen that we couldn't see the question?
No?
Zoom out, yes. Couldn't see the question properly. Oh, no, see. Thank you.
Shall I make it bigger or smaller?
It's fine now.
Okay, all right. Yes, Numan.
Teacher, I think it's a specific purpose question. It gives us a specific purpose.
Specific purpose.
Yes.
How do you understand that?
How do I understand that? When I read the question and the choice between the answers, I understand it.
Sure, definitely. A very explanatory comment, Numan. Numan, look at this highlighted words in the question system. Carl Smith makes it very specific. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And is presented primarily as makes it a purpose question.
Yes.
And also it is specified here in the first paragraph. So not for the whole passage. It's just related to a small part of the passage. Yeah. So Numan, let's have a look at the answer choices.
Should I read all of the choice or only the answer, teacher?
Let's start with the answer.
Okay. The answer is, I think, C, teacher. A useful model for confluencing a various phenomena.
Okay, everyone. I'm going back to the first paragraph. We need to find the keyword, Carl Smith. So what is it? For categorizing epidemics. So remember the part that I asked one of your friends, I think it was Alexandra. So it uses the same sentence structure. So what is the purpose of this highlighted part? So as Numan said, a useful model for conceptualizing a variety of phenomena. So it uses the same way of explaining things for different sorts of incidents, different problems that humanity experienced in the history. So this is the answer. Why not the others, Numan?
Sure, I think it's logical for me. And when we go back to the paragraph, we can easily see it in line 3, I think.
Okay, all right. Let's discuss together. Option A, a controversial sociological hypothesis. So this word makes it incorrect, first of all. And B, a warning about potentially dangerous economic trends. It's not about economic trends. A potential medical solution to a persistent social problem. It's not offering a solution. Okay, second question. Let's continue with Behram.
Yes, sir. Shall I continue?
Just a second. I'm replying Mona's message. Yes, Behram, ready.
So, sir, first of all, let me read the question, sir. The author suggests that promising research in the social sciences is sometimes ignored because it. So, first of all,
what sort of question is this, Behram?
I think, sir, it's sort of a specific, sir, specific detail, because it's asking a reason that why. Yes, sir. I think it's specific detail.
Behram, look
Yes,
at
sir.
our list again. What is the question
Inference, yes, sir. Inference.
It's definitely inference, right?
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. So the first choice is not presented by authority
you don't need to
with the
infer
proper
it.
credentials.
Sorry?
You don't need to infer it. It's a reason that's already mentioned.
Just a second. The author suggests that promising research in the social sciences is sometimes ignored because
the author already mentioned why it is ignored. It's the reason we don't need to infer anything from the text.
Mujib, I think that's Mujib, right?
Yeah.
Mujib, what's the answer?
Sir, as you can see in the line 62, no, 65, sir, it was an exciting conjecture and it prompted an immediate wave of nothing. Niven's paper was almost completely ignored. And it is one sense it's easy to see why Niven is an economist. So I think it should be, sir, A.
Okay. Let me explain Mujib's comment. Yeah, what Mujib said is acceptable to a certain extent, but it is still inference, Mujib. Why? Because here, the answer of the second question, what is the answer? It's A, okay? the answer is not directly stated in the passage. Of course, it's given, but not in the same wording. So that's why we still call it inference.
And also, sir, the word credential, I searched for that. It's something certificate or testimonial.
Not only testimonial, but also referring to the, let's say, proper source to publish.
I mean, it's like,
and also in academic life,
professional-
in order to
That's
get
it.
your articles to be published, you need to add a kind of co-author with the title of professor, for example. That's
So,
why
sir-
young researchers always ask their supervisors to write their names on their articles as well. Yes, Behram. Sorry.
So Nevin was not a professional person on that field. I mean, because Nevin was an economist. Is that right, sir?
Definitely. That's why it's here, it says proper credentials.
Yeah.
That's the keyword here.
Okay.
Okay. And how about other options, Behram?
So option B is not supported by controlled scientific experiments. I don't think so. There's not any mention of scientific
Controlled
experiments.
scientific experiment, never mentioned.
Yes, sir. Relies on complex mathematical calculation that are not
Nothing
easily
to do with that.
understood. There's not any mathematical calculation that's very
Definitely.
complex and not understand. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And also uses historical data that are not necessarily valid in the modern era. Actually, they are valid, sir.
Yeah, sure, definitely. You're right. That are not necessarily valid in modern era. Yeah, this is
it's the opposite, sir. It's the
yeah,
opposite.
definitely. So, question number 2 and 3. Number 3 is a command of evidence question, and the answer is, as you said, 68 to 72, I think, right? Here. So question number 3, command of evidence question, answer C. So any question, any comment so far? I'm waiting for your comments.
Teacher.
Yes.
Can you explain the choice B in question 1, please, teacher? Re-explain why the answer is that.
Question 1?
Yeah,
option?
C, teacher. Why the answer is C?
A useful model for conceptualizing a variety of phenomena. So when we go back to the first paragraph, Mohammed, look at the highlighted part. Uses the same sentence structure to explain different cases. If it spreads along lines of communication, the cause is information. Think beaver fever. If it travels along major transportation routes, the cause is microbial. Influenza, the cause is an insect. Malaria, I'm sorry, the previous one, insect, think malaria. And next, fall of, where is it? Rise of crime in 60s, 70s, and fall of crime in 90s. The cause is a molecule. So the same logic is used for different cases.
Okay, teacher, thank you.
Same idea is used to explain different situations. What is the common point here? Different problems that humanity faced. Question number 4. Mohammed, let's continue with you.
According to the graph, for which of the following time periods was the percent increase in per capita violent crimes the greatest?
Okay, so what sort of question is this?
Infographics, graphics question, teacher.
Yeah, definitely. We are expected to interpret infographics. So the question, which of the following time periods was the percent increase in per capita violent crime the greatest? This is the question. Here's the infographic.
Teacher, 1960, 1970, maybe?
I think, sir, it's A.
So can you scroll down?
Teacher, 1940, 1950, maybe. Yeah.
1963.
But I think C, 1960 to 1970.
Here it's asking the increase, the percent increase in per capita violent crime, the greatest. So let's look at this one. This solid line shows us violent crime per 100,000 capita. So look at the dates. 1940, 1970, 1940, 1970. Here it goes from 5 to 26. The other one, 1963, 1993.
Yeah, teacher, I think B. The answer is B.
1963, 1993. Why, Mohammed?
Because I think, teacher, the greatest percent increase is in that interval, teacher.
Here, from this one to 1993. I get confused with these lines.
Sir,
It says,
can I
yes.
say something, sir?
Yes.
So
Because of the 23-year lag.
A and B are a little bit confusing, sir. But when we look at the graph, as you can see at the right side, it's a capita, sir. But the other one, I mean the left side, it's a blood lead. So the dots, it's blood lead, and also the line without the dots is sir, is capita. So it should be B, sir.
Teacher, the solid line is per capita and the dashed line is the blood lead, teacher.
Yeah, that's right. Broken line for blood lead and solid line violent crimes per 100,000 capita. So as Eray said, this dates, years are with 23 years added. So that's why it's this one. As Mohammed said, it's B. The highest increase is here. The greatest increase at these dates. 1963, 1993. Okay, Eray, let's continue with you, please.
According to the graph, which decades of violent criminal statistics provides the least support to Rick Nevin's hypothesis?
What sort of question is this, Eray?
It's probably also a graphics question, but it may be an inference one too. because
it's inference, but it also just a second,
requires
everyone,
graphics.
look at the screen, please. This is also
hypothesis,
inference and synthesis.
Synthesis. Okay.
Because it's asking us to use infographics to integrate information from infographics to the passage, to the text. Yes, Eray. Again, which decade of violent crime statistics provides the least
support for Lick-Nevin's hypothesis? Okay. So probably the decades that, probably D, because it's lower and doesn't really show anything according to LED. Or maybe actually something that's not within the graph would be the best solution, but because that's a drop, yeah, because there's a difference between the LED and the violent crime, so it has to be 2003 to 2013.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
Because the difference between
explanation. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, in the passage it stated that as lead exposure decreased recently, so it shows us that there is no increase in crime rates. Okay. Any question, any comments so far for the questions 1 to 5?
Teacher, what's the meaning of Rick?
Where is it?
What?
Rick Nevin.
The fifth question, teacher.
It's a name. Rick Nevin.
Rick Nevin is the researcher.
Okay, teacher.
Okay. All right. Let's continue with someone else. Abed?
Yes.
Ready, Abed?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, Abed, let's have a look at the question. Number 6.
The author mentions cells of vinyl lips, line 74 primary as an example of.
So first of all, what sort of question is this, Abed? Would you like me to go back to the list of question types?
Vocab or inference would be.
No, Abed, look at this one.
Source of vinyl lips.
So this is asking about a very specific detail from the passage.
Yes.
Okay, so first of all, simply, this is a specific detail question. And this specific detail is expected to identify with its purpose. Specific purpose question. Okay, so let's have a look at the options.
Another economic factor that may explain a social trend. How harmful chemical can be spread by consumer products. Statistics may become more coincidental than explanatory, and answer D was counterintuitive trend in customer behavior.
Okay, this is difficulty level a bit higher for this question. So what is the answer? Any idea? So another economic factor that may explain a social trend. Sorry?
Could be A is the answer, or I don't know.
All right, line 74. Let's go back to that line. Here. Sales of vinyl LPs rose in the post-war period too, and then declined in 80s and 90s.
It's showing that there's no correlation with the LED, but it also fits the graph perfectly.
So, is it used as an example of
maybe more
economic
coincidental than explanatory? So C.
Exactly.
As tax or maybe coincidental than explanatory C, teacher.
So this is the answer. No doubt about that. But how about A, B, and D? Another economic factor that may explain a social trend. It has nothing to do with economic factor. How harmful chemicals can be spread via consumer products? Actually, this is a fact, but it is not used as an example of this in the passage. And a trend in consumer behavior. No, it's not used.
It's not about behavior or something.
Yeah.
Teacher.
Okay. Yes.
Can you explain why the answer is C, teacher?
Yeah, sure, definitely. Here, this factual detail of this sentence, what was it? Sales of vinyl LPs rose in the post-war period too, and then declined in 80s and 90s. So what was the purpose of this detail in the passage? It's more than coincidental. And it supports the idea, the findings of Rick Nevin in their research. That's why the author uses this detail to support that research finding.
Okay, teacher.
And let's continue with the following questions. Idris. Idris, yeah. Sorry. Idris microphone.
Sorry, Idris microphone is not working.
Yeah. Tasnem?
Yes.
Okay, we started with Tasnem and about to finish with Tasnem. Tasnem, what type of question is number 7?
Yes, Taksim.
Vocab question?
Yeah, a very simple question. It's a vocab question. Complications in line 22 are, okay, so remember, this is a kind of vocab in context question. We need to consider its meaning in the sentence, in the paragraph, and in the passage.
Yes.
So what is the answer? Complications in line 22.
Line 22.
Line 22. Here is the sentence.
Growing the fish. It's like I don't know how to explain it, but wait a minute.
Okay, let's have a look at the options for given with the question.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Not bicycle problems, challenges to the implements of social. No.
Sir, I think it's
B?
no.
C?
No.
It's not
D.
Not C.
So A or D?
It's D, sir. Physiological problems.
Yes, definitely. It's D. D.
Okay.
Definitely D.
Teacher.
Yes, Mohammed.
Psychological means mental, right, teacher?
Yes, exactly. And
Okay.
here in the passage, remember, it says lower IQ, behavioral problems, learning disabilities. Not physical. Okay.
Yes.
Let's continue with you, Zahid.
Yes, sir.
Zahid, question number 8.
Okay. Should I read it?
Yes, please.
No.
And tell us what sort of question is this?
Okay. The author regards the drivers in the line 60s as they prefer referring to something, I don't know.
What sort of question is this?
Question.
Vocab question.
Not vocab.
Okay.
Is it vocab?
Yeah, definitely.
I don't
it's
think
vocab
so, teacher.
Definitely
Okay.
the vocab.
Is it vocab?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think so.
So it is vocab. Can you scroll up to the passage? The line 60.
Sure. Let's go back.
As
But
well
first
as
of all, it's not only a vocab question, everyone. The author regards the drivers in line 60 as, so you see, this is a kind of, asking the test takers to interpret the information given in the sentence and in the line. It also asks us to identify the use of this word and phrase, including drivers, and the purpose.
So also ask about the meaning.
Line 60, just a second. Line 60. In this sentence. So, any idea?
It's probably
Sir,
A.
Sir, it was a crime, but they were not doing that on purpose. I'm thinking like this.
Yeah, so it's because it's not intentional, it has to be A, because they like inadvertent drivers, those types of drivers, they drive and they cause crimes without knowing. So it has to be A.
Yes, sir. It has to be. Yeah. A.
So let's go back to the options. Inadvertent abettors, accidentally. Doing this
and also,
accidentally.
Sir, at the end of the paragraph, as we can see, they were unwittingly creating a crime with to the case. Yes, unwittingly.
They were unwittingly creating a crime wave. Yeah, definitely, you are right. Yeah. So you see, we try to understand the word here and also identify the purpose of this noun and its function in the sentence. So it's not only a vocab question, it's also asking us to interpret the information given in the sentence and the paragraph. So let's look at the other options here. It says heroes.
They're not heroes. They're not greedy.
Heroes.
They're not
greedy consumers.
No.
They're not consumers.
Normally, considering the situation, we could think that the author may have mentioned, but this is not the fact for this passage. For maybe different passages, it could be a fact. And devious
They're not devious
conspirators.
Conspirators. They're not including in any conspiracy theory. So
yeah, sure, definitely, you are right. You're right. And question number 9. Zehra.
Yes, sir.
What type of question is this, Zehra?
Definitely a vocab question, sir.
Sure. Okay, we agree with you now.
No, I'm not agree.
Okay. In line 49, even better, most nearly means line 49. Line 49. Where is it? This one. Okay, so when we go back to the question, Zehra, what is the answer?
Is it C?
B.
More aesthetically engaging. It has nothing to do with aesthetically, Zehra.
I said C.
C, easier to calculate.
Closer, but not right.
Easier to calculate. No, it's not related to calculation.
Sir, I think it's B.
Yeah, more correlative.
It should be B, sir.
More correlative. That means
Welcome.
having a closer link now in the sentence it says. Any questions so far?
No, sir.
Okay, final question. Zahid?
Yeah.
Zahid, could you
The
please read the
final-
question, Sam?
Okay. The final paragraph serves primarily to
What sort of question is this, Zahid?
the final paragraph. Explanatory, I don't know.
Okay, let's go step by step. Final
So can
paragraph.
you call it
So that
technique?
means this question is focusing on one single paragraph, concluding paragraph. Okay, and
Specific
yeah, look
purpose.
at this word,
That's
serves.
specific.
Serves. So that means it is a specific question, but asking for. Let me write it here if I can.
You can, sure.
It is asking a specific purpose
Yeah.
of the paragraph. So now you will see. Final paragraph. Please have a look at this one. Yes, Said.
Zahid Hadi.
Just wait, man.
So Zaid, look, let's go step by step.
It's not it.
Definitely not eight. I just topics for future research,
Yeah.
nothing to do with future research. Okay. And consider theoretical drawback.
Might be C, teacher, or D.
It has nothing to do with the drawback of the study.
Yeah.
C?
Yeah. Might be this one, or I think it's D.
Of course. The answer is D,
Yeah,
not
D.
C, not B, no A. Okay, so
it's
everyone,
what
I
says
want
D.
all of you to unmute your microphones, and I would like to hear your comments about this session and listen to your recommendations, requests. Then we will stop for this session.
Okay, sir. Starting by who, sir?
Starting with, okay.
By you.
Just a second. Starting
By
with
you? Zaid.
John.
Just a second.
By who?
Let me name you here.
By
Abed.
you.
Yes.
Any comments, any requests, any suggestion for the following sessions?
No, we had a great lesson. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Abed. We will try to do our best in the following weeks, but I strongly recommend you to keep studying. It's a great chance for SAT takers to stay at home all the time. And also stay away from interactions. It's a really serious situation. And Ali?
Yes, sir. Sir, I have no comments. I like the app itself, sir. It's a good software we can discuss and see. It's better than Discord, sir, I think.
Okay.
Discord, we have a bit of voice lagging, and here it's better, sir. Like the screen, everything's okay. I'm happy with it, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ali.
You're welcome.
Mohammed?
Teacher, this app is better than Discord because we can zoom in, teacher. So this app is a good, teacher.
Okay. Any recommendation, Mohammed, for the materials for the studies?
No, teacher, maybe. No, I don't have, teacher.
Yeah, as I told you, in the rest of our studies, we will mainly focus on this material.
Teacher Muharram.
Yes.
Can you explain question choice D, please? Why in question 10? Why the answer is D, teacher?
It describes. It somehow supports the previous explanations in the previous paragraphs. So that's why we say describe a supportive implication.
Okay, teacher.
And Eray?
I like the lesson. It was pretty good. I'm inclined to believe that everyone who has talked before me is also quite correct on what they have said.
Thank you, Rai.
Yusuf?
Yeah, just one thing. So can we get like a 12-hour notice before the lesson starts? Like, so
Sure,
we can
definitely.
see what time we should
Definitely,
give
you
up.
will. You will. As I
Yes, I was messaging.
Yeah, contacted one of your friends yesterday. Actually, today was supposed to be very busy for me. That's why I couldn't say exact time. But somehow I wanted to have a kind of demo lesson. So that's why I contacted on Discord and wanted to conduct this lesson.
Okay, thank you, teacher.
You're welcome. Mujib?
No suggestions, sir.
Okay, thanks, Mujib. Alexandra?
Hi, Mr. The session was better than the discourse ones. I like that one more.
Okay,
Also,
thanks, Alexandra. By the way, if you have any suggestions, requests, please write it in our WhatsApp group. And as your friend noted, I will try to inform you earlier, much earlier.
okay,
No,
teacher.
sir, but 10 minutes is fine.
Yeah, but I will try to do it a day before.
Okay, sir.
And also, teacher, can I avoid the time from 1 to 3 or 4? Because I have another lectures in this time.
Who is always busy in the afternoon? 1 to 3, 1 to 4?
I am. I'm like mostly free after 4.
Okay, we can consider
everyone's
it,
free.
Alexandra, after 3. And also this evening we will meet. Yeah, Yusuf. We will meet with your other teachers to make a schedule for you, but we will let you know about that. Very quickly, Berin, anything to say?
Who's writing those? Can I write those?
Okay.
Just a second. Let me finish asking your friend's opinion. Then I will let you speak out for your final remarks.
Teacher, everything is okay. Thank you for this
You're
lesson.
welcome, Berin. Thanks, Dennis.
The lecture was good. I enjoyed it.
All right, thanks. We are happy to hear that, Dennis. And
Thank you, sir.
Heba.
Sir, no, I have no comments. Thank you. It was very nice.
Okay, thanks. You're welcome, Heba. And Meryem.
No comment, sir. Thank you.
Ali, don't do
You're
that.
welcome. You're welcome. And who else? We have Mobin.
Yes, sir.
Any comment, any request, suggestion, Mobin?
No, sir. Thank you. Thank you for everything.
You're welcome. And Numan?
No comments, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Rukiye?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Serkan?
It was good, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome, Serkan. Zahid?
It was good, teacher.